Hi AP Seminar, Mr. Muller here, and in today's lesson we're going to talk about signal phrases. These are incredibly important with your performance tasks, in your presentations, and in the AP test because signal phrases establish the credibility and relevance for readers. So let's figure out what they are and how to do them. Hope you're excited. I'm excited. Let's get started. Now, signal phrases are all about how we establish credibility and relevance. When I'm reading an essay or when I'm hearing a presentation and you're going to provide evidence for your argument, I need to know first that it's credible and relevant before I can even believe it. If all you do is insert your evidence without establishing the relevance and credibility of it, well then I've got to maybe go back in your bibliography. All right, what source was that? I'm going to have to stop and look through and comb through it. I might have some issues with it if you don't tell me who it's from. Like if you only give me the author. Okay, well, is he a professor? Is this from a journal? Is it relevant? I mean, you could be taking a quote completely out of context of the source material. If you do signal phrases right, you will have established relevance and credibility before you even insert the evidence, which allows me to just move through it. It's beautiful. A signal phrase has a couple of components. First, who's the author? Again, I should know who's writing this. Secondly, tell me their occupation. John Smith, professor of economics at Harvard University. Now, that's really interesting because that establishes a strong reputation. Okay, PhD at a well-thought-of university. Okay, it's coming off pretty credible. Tell me the article title. And if it's peer-reviewed, tell me that. You could say John Smith, professor of economics at Harvard University, in his peer-reviewed article titled X. Because if I know what the title of the article is, and I know what your argument's about, I can immediately tell by that title, is that source actually relevant to what you are studying? Or did you take evidence from a source that is completely irrelevant to what you're talking about? Also, tell me the year of the article, okay? If we're doing these things in APA, and since we have to have evidence that's credible, it needs to be in the last 15 years. The more current the source is, the more credible it is because it's the most up-to-date information that we possibly have on that topic. Also, tell me what journal or periodical or medium that it was published in. If you've got a source that's from a professional journal, then tell me that because that establishes credibility because typically those are peer-reviewed, they're from professionals, they're thought of very highly. And so if I read that, I can think, okay, it's coming from a professional journal. The title shows that it's relevant to the topic, and the journal notes that it's credible because it's a professional journal. And then give me a brief summary of the source. Now, do you have to do all of that in one sentence? No, I would actually not recommend doing that in one sentence because it'll become this weird run-on sentence, and it's going to be hard to follow it. Break it up into multiple sentences before you insert your information. Now, why you give me a one-sentence summary of the source? To establish relevance of that source to your topic. It also establishes common ground with me as a reader. If I can understand what that source was about and what that author was trying to find out or trying to argue, then I could better understand the evidence you're presenting. So these establish, again, credibility so I can believe you, and relevance so I know your source is connected to your topic. And those are things that are always assessed in those AP rubrics. So, what does one look like? Here we go. The green is going to be your author. Yellow is going to be occupation. The light blue is going to be summary of the source. Orange is going to be year. Purple is going to be peer-reviewed. And the darker blue is going to be the title of the article. So let's go. Stephen Jones, a professor of economics at Harvard University. Okay, so I know we have a professor. Harvard, that's a reputable institution, so credibility is already being established here. Focuses on the impact of inflation on global trade. Okay, so I know that if this argument was about global trade and economics, okay, I can tell that this source is related to what you're arguing. And it's 2010, okay, 2010, so I know it's in the last 5-6 years, so it's fairly relevant. Peer-reviewed article, well, that helps out tremendously, so I know it's credible. The burst balloon, okay, so I can see that's relevant. He notes, quote. So before I even see that quote, I say, okay, I can believe the evidence that you're giving me. I don't have to look back at your bibliography. I don't have to try and dig through what you've done. It's very easy for me as a reader to understand your credibility and relevance. Let's look at another example. Critics of mental imagery point out the circumstances of these athletes and compare them with athletes at a lower level. So before you introduce the signal phrase of the source, they did the summary of the source first. So again, there's multiple ways you can organize this as long as you hit the points. As Buriak, Creasy, Carrick, and Wright write in the Virginia Association for Health, Physical Education, and Dance Journal from 2009, so 2009, fairly relevant source, Virginia Association for Health, Physical Education, and Dance Journal. Looks like it's a professional journal, so I can believe it more. Virginia Association for Health, so it looks like it's fairly credible. I don't know if the authors are professors, but the source may not have said that. And let's go to the actual evidence itself. Of the 22 National Collegiate Athletic Association coaches surveyed, only 2 taught mental skills and techniques to players. Okay, now does it hit everything? No, but I understand what the source is, so I can see relevance. I can see that it's from a journal, which probably establishes credibility. So I can deduce this is probably credible and relevant. Now, is that as good as the first example? No, but still credibility and relevance are established. Now let's see what you can do. Here's an example. What I'd like you to do is look at each and determine, all right, what aspects of signal phrases can you find here? So pause the video, figure out what aspects and components of signal phrases exist in these 2 examples, and then come back. Did you check? Okay, let's go through this. Location is a major advantage for nuclear energy, as it does not need specific location to produce energy. Well, first off, that's really not written very well. It looks like that might be a summary. It might also be a subclaim. I don't really see any parts of a signal phrase quite yet. Nuclear energy power plants are easy to locate in almost any open spaced area. National Geographic. Okay, so all I know so far is you're introducing evidence from National Geographic about power plants. Well, I don't know the author. National Geographic isn't a journal, so I don't think it's really credible. I don't know what the title of that was, so I don't know if it's relevant. I don't know what year it's from. It could be from the 70s, and it's not really relevant anymore. I don't know who the author is and what their reputation is. I don't know what the author's profession was. I really can't say this is credible or really relevant. The evidence you've used, you haven't established at all if I should believe you. Now, what that does for me as a reader is, well, I don't believe you. I now have to dig through and see if this evidence is credible or not, and if you're making me question it, then I'm going to have to mark you down on the rubric. Let's take a look at another example. TriplePundit.com. Okay, well, that's a .com. That's really great. That doesn't establish credibility at all. It's from a .com. I don't understand why you would use that in your arguments, but let's keep going. TriplePundit.com says that nuclear energy is about 4 times more efficient in producing wind energy while taking up less than 1/10 of space that wind and solar require. Well, first off, I have no idea where this comes from. There's no citation on it. I don't know what year it's from, so I don't know if it's relevant. I don't know what the title of it is, so I don't know if it's relevant. I don't know who the author of this was and what the credentials were. And obviously this comes from a .com, so it's not from a journal. So I can, again, say this is not credible and it's not relevant. So those are some examples for you. You have some excellent examples and you have some not so good examples. Hope you learned something you didn't know before and put in signal phrases in your argumentative essays and presentations. Thanks for watching.